morning. So yesterday I had you look at some character pressures in your reading journal. We looked at character versus character, character versus nature, character versus society, and character versus self. And I asked you to create a reading journal entry on Salva and some of the pressures he's facing. I'm going to quickly just demonstrate some of the pressures I think he's facing, and you can kind of look at your reading journal entry and compare. So for character versus character, I think kind of being accepted by the new groups or people that he comes across is definitely a character versus character. So he comes across Auntie, and he wasn't sure if she would accept him when she was at the house and the women had left him. And before that, the group of women that he traveled with to the barn, he was worried about them accepting him. So I think that his character versus character pressure is definitely the different people he comes across in his journey. For character versus nature, he is definitely trying to survive in the bush, which we know is kind of like the woods. He definitely has hunger and thirst issues. For character versus society, there's the war has come to Sudan, the civil war, and also kind of the rebel soldiers maybe trying to kidnap him. And that might relate up to character versus character, but I think it's definitely more character versus society. And character versus self, he's very unconfident. He's always asking, what will I do now? Where's my family? How will I go on? Auntie can't leave me. So those were kind of some of the pressures and evidence from the story that I came up with. Now today we're going to continue to look at Salva, but we're going to think about some other readings we've done as well. So our I can for today is I can compare two different characters using two different texts and explain their character traits, similarities, and differences using evidence from the story to back up my thinking. So there's a lot here, but I definitely think the two characters pop out and two different texts. That means two different books, not two characters from the same book. And then I'm going to be looking at character traits, and I'm going to be not only looking at Salva's character traits, but also another character traits and looking at are they a similar character trait or a different one. And I'm going to use that evidence to kind of back up my thinking. So you might want to create your reading journal entry like mine, where I have put Salva as the main character, as one character, and you'll need to do Salva as a character, and then Luke as my other character from Among the Hidden. And I kind of put the book titles there. And I felt like they had a trait in common. They were both very unconfident at times. So and my evidence for Salva, he's devastated when the women leave him alone in the barn. He wants to be led to safety. He keeps asking, where's my family and what will I do now? He kind of also freaks out when Auntie says she's leaving him and can't take him with her. He panics until the other group of men come. I could have added that as well. For Luke, we find himself in the story calling himself an idiot. He follows Jen's lead with covering up his visits, even when she goes to hurt herself to put her own blood on the carpet. And sometimes he doesn't think he deserves to live because his food could go elsewhere. So I decided in my journal entry to choose Luke as my character to do this kind of chart. You could always write a paragraph or do a web if you wanted to. And I looked at a similar character trait that they both had. You could look at a similar character trait or two different character traits that each of them have. However, I don't want you to look at unconfident for Salva because I've already done that for you. So there are some other traits you could look at. I think Salva is definitely clever. He learns that in order not to be sent away at Auntie's, he's got to gather firewood and get water. He's a great student at school. and he has found a way to kind of be quiet when accepted into other groups so that he's not turned away. I think he's pretty brave when he follows the teacher's directions to leave the school building. You could say he's responsible when he takes care of all the cows in the herd and his younger brother Kahul. He's determined. He still thinks about his family and is not going to give up on finding them. He's loyal to his family. He always thinks of them fondly, his sisters and his brother and his parents. He wants to go home and help them. He's compassionate, worried about what's happening to them. And at times he's hopeless. What will I do now when Auntie leaves, or when the women leave, or when he runs out of the school and has no one to be with? So these are some other traits you could choose from. And you're going to compare Salva to another character. It could be Luke or Jen from Among the Hidden. It could be the main character from your book. It could be a main character from a book you read this year. It could be Wangari with Wangari's Seeds of Peace, or Princess Gigi with The Water Princess. It could be Malala or Natalia from Thirst. I'm fine with either of those. It doesn't have to be fiction, because Malala and Natalia certainly show some traits. So your job again is to create a reading journal with Salva and another character, your choice where from, either looking at one trait the two characters have in common and backing them up with evidence, or looking at a trait that the two characters don't have in common, their differences, and backing them up with evidence. Again, jotting time should be about 10 minutes, so don't overthink it. And that is all for today.